Welcome to the Calm Analytics channel. I'm Boris Risenhausen. Today is August 22nd. The main news at this moment: Putin and Medvedev spoke at the United Russia Congress. They decided to liven up the audience a bit. It turned out the opposite, a collection of cliched, dreary nonsense. I will show you a small clip now where Putin, absolutely stumbling over his intonations or articulating words with this new set of dentures of his, is struggling to read from a piece of paper why one should choose United Russia again. Take a look.
В ходе избирательной кампании, конечно же, порой звучат и красивые, броские лозунги, обещания снять все проблемы, причем немедленно, сейчас, в одночасье. Но далеко не всегда за этими словами стоят четкие приоритеты, механизмы решения конкретных задач, управленческий опыт, расчет ресурсов и план дальнейших действий, да и свой кадровый потенциал. У Единой России все это есть.
You shouldn't believe beautiful promises, says Putin. And which beautiful promises is he talking about, I wonder? Pulling Russians out of the slums? Not raising the retirement age, perhaps. Not declaring mobilization, not resetting presidential terms, maybe not going to war. What other beautiful promises is he talking about? And he even says that United Russia has everything: experience, competence, and a personnel reserve. So if you and your United Russia have everything: experience, personnel reserves, and capabilities, why haven't you applied all of this in a quarter of a century? It's amazing, but millions of Russians will vote for this gathering of degenerates. The crowning achievement of their rule has become a war that has already destroyed 1.5 million Russians. Keep voting your way back into the dark past. Well, Medvedev decided not to be left behind. There is and can be no forgiveness for the scoundrels who left Russia and are yapping at the country and wishing for its defeat, Medvedev declared. And he knocked back a shot, probably. That's it. Another case of Finlandia will fall in an unequal battle today. I don't know why this alco-hobbit decided that anyone needs his forgiveness. Absolutely no one needs it. And now, moving on to some good news. If anyone doubted that after Wildberries it would be Ozon's turn, those doubts vanished today. Let's watch this video. Beautiful. This is the first known strike on Ozon's infrastructure following the series of attacks on Wildberries warehouses. The area of this complex is 135,000 square meters. I believe it's Ozon's fifth largest by area. Investments in its creation were estimated at approximately 5 billion. Well, it's one of the major logistics hubs in the Volga region. But in principle, I think that following Wildberries, Ozon can also start climbing into its burial pit and covering itself with a sheet. I saw comments from some Russians today along these lines. Finally, Ozon got it too, and not just our Wildberries, not just hitting our Wildberries. Listen, well, that's solidarity, right? We don't abandon our own, as they say. An interesting point. When I was studying the topic today, I found that in terms of total area, Ozon is actually larger than Wildberries. That is, Ozon has 6 million square meters of warehouse space, Wildberries has 4.7 million, and Ozon has about 50 full-cycle warehouses and over 150 logistics hubs. So there's plenty of work for Ukrainian drones to do here. If, following Wildberries, they start systematically taking out Ozon's logistics, then the largest Russian marketplaces will simply face a real collapse. That's it. And I think that's exactly what will happen. Especially since Ozon and Wildberries account for 80% of all online orders in Russia. I mean, it will just be a total collapse. In general, this night several sensitive facilities in Russia were hit almost simultaneously. In the Samara region, for instance, the Novokubishevsk oil refinery owned by Rosneft was hit. And this is important, this is no ordinary refinery. It has a design capacity of about 9 million tons of processing per year, and it produces gasoline, diesel, various oils, bitumen, and aviation jet fuel. That is, Rosneft reported on its website, thanks to them, by the way, Madia says for this, that the installed line at this plant allows for the production of over 1 million tons of jet fuel per year, suitable, among other things, for supersonic aviation. So the Novokubishevsk refinery produced jet fuel that is used for both the Sukhoi 27 and the Tupolev 22 M3 in general, for the aviation that Russia uses against Ukraine. And if you calculate it, it turns out that this plant produces 10% of the entire annual production of aviation kerosene in Russia. So it was a very, very important plant. Moreover, this plant has been hit more than once. That is, it has repeatedly come under attack after previous strikes and was operating with limitations. So the tactic here is familiar. They let them patch it up a little bit and then hit it again right there. But that's not all. And I will definitely tell you now where else it hit. But before that, let me remind you, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. It is important for the channel's promotion. We are fighting against Putin's propaganda. Together with you, we will do this much more effectively. So subscribe and don't put it off. Where else did it hit? Well, here is where. In occupied Crimea, where I was born, my native Crimea, at the Saky airfield, a Su-24M aircraft and 4 units of Russian airfield equipment were destroyed. In the conditions of a total blackout in occupied Crimea, it is becoming increasingly difficult for the Russians to defend their military facilities and power them. And in the Bryansk region, they took out repeaters used for drone control, and the port of Yeysk in the Krasnodar territory on the Sea of Azov also got hit. After the attack, there is a serious fire in the terminal area. This port itself is a fairly significant logistics hub, 15 berths, mind you, and a throughput capacity of up to 7 million tons of cargo per year. Grain, coal, metals, and oil products all go through it, or at least they did. And look, where are our drones hitting? Ports, logistics, oil refineries. Ukraine is systematically striking the pain points of Putin's military budget and the Russian economy. And of course, no one is forgetting about the occupied territories either. The price will be unbearable for Putin. Electricity supply is restricted throughout the entire annexed Crimea. Crimea has been in a blackout for 3 days now. I remember how those who moved to Crimea were having fun, how various degenerate characters who love the Russian world so much were posting memes from Crimea about how Ukraine would freeze in the winter without electricity. How do you like the darkness there? Well, how is it for you there now? Not funny anymore. It will be even sadder. And there is interesting information from the Crimean partisans. Russian air defense was actively working in Crimea, but it was aiming in the wrong direction a little bit. That is, instead of drones, they destroyed several residential houses and cars. This happened in the suburbs of Yevpatoria in the village of Limanskoye. That is, while doing this, the drones they were trying to shoot down remained undamaged and struck exactly the electrical substation near the village of Malorechynskoye near Alushta. And they also took out several other energy infrastructure facilities. That's how it is. These facilities, among others, I remind you, are used by the occupying forces of the Russian Federation. I think many have noticed that no one on federal channels is talking about Crimea anymore. Crimea has disappeared from the agenda. Why? Well, it's not hard to guess. Well, and Ukraine is not giving up and does not intend to give up. In every episode, we have an important fundraiser for the defense forces of Ukraine, and we are continuing to raise funds for a pickup truck for the strike drone crew of the 26th Artillery Brigade, which is holding the line in the Donetsk direction. Please take a look at this video from our fighters.
Вітаємо! Ми бійці 26-ї окремої артилерійської бригади. Звертаємося до Бориса Тізенгаузена та вашої аудиторії з проханням допомогти зібрати кошти на авто для екіпажу ударних БПЛА. Будемо дуже вдячні Борису та кожному, хто підтримує наш збір. Кожна гривня – це внесок у нашу роботу, а значить, в нашу спільну боротьбу. Дякуємо за підтримку. Слава Україні!
Let's help our warriors from the 26th Artillery Brigade. They know their job, and when the 26th Artillery Brigade meets the occupier regrets once and for all that they came to our Ukrainian land. The link to the fundraiser is in the description of this video. There is Mono, Private, and PayPal for those who want to help from abroad, and a QR code in the corner for those watching me on other channels. But for Russians, whose happiness index, I remind you, has simply collapsed in recent weeks, for what reason it's interesting is unclear. A small surprise has been prepared for the Russians. On Putin's orders, Russian cities will be decorated with Matryoshka dolls and balalaikas. Matryoshka dolls, balalaikas, bears, birch groves, and the domes of St. Basil's Cathedral will be used to decorate urban spaces in Russia. These national symbols were developed for the Russian House 2026 exhibition, which is being held in response to Putin's directive. The organizers also decided to rethink the symbol of the birch tree. Well, really, what else is there to do in Russia? I can just imagine in occupied Sevastopol, where I was born, with no electricity and no fuel, the occupiers will have a giant Matryoshka doll set up in Nakimov Square just to cheer them up a little. We could even give them a couple of balalaikas to hold. Maybe we could even bring in a bone from Dmitry Donskoy. So don't be sad. It's fun, right? Why aren't you having fun, huh? In yesterday's episode, I talked about how Putin sent a piece of Dmitry Donskoy's skeleton to the front line. Sometimes it's really hard to believe that we are living in the year 2026. The bold necromancer opens the tomb of an ancient ruler, a Russian prince, kisses the skeleton himself, and sends the bones to the front so that his ghoul army can recharge from these artifacts there. Let me remind you, about 10 days ago, Putin demanded a breakthrough in Russian science. What kind? Where? What kind of science for you? You've got tombs, bones, and rituals over there. You might as well send Lenin's mummy to the front to join the pile. Do you even realize what kind of obscurantism and superstitions Putin's Russia is mired in? And the Russian Orthodox Church, of course, is playing the leading role in that. There is no peace for the living or the dead from this deranged old man. I am so sick of him. When will Satan finally take him back? Actually, by the way, it is amazing that in the 2000s, Russia entered a new century with gigantic opportunities. I mean, the largest territory in the world, and the oil market conditions were very favorable. Russia has 17 million square kilometers, let me remind you, huge reserves of oil, gas, coal, metals, a powerful industrial and scientific base, which, I remind you, was inherited from the entire USSR for free. The country could have simply moved towards modernization and development. Access to 3 oceans, an advantageous transit position between Europe and Asia. It has everything. They started with a huge head start. Many countries couldn't even dream of such a thing. Almost no one had anything like this. But over Putin's 26 years of rule, this chance was simply destroyed. Instead of development, raw material dependence on China, war, sanctions, international isolation, technological backwardness, and an outflow of capital and brains. According to various estimates, more than 1 million people have left Russia since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. These are primarily IT specialists, engineers, and doctors. For years now, the death rate has exceeded the birth rate, even though Putin keeps designating some year of the family or day of the family. What year? You yourself have killed 1.5 million Russians. What year of the family? The result, of course, is logical. A country that had everything needed to become one of the centers of power. The Russian Federation really could have been that. But instead, they chose the path of self-isolation and degradation. And it is difficult to name a figure in the modern history of the Russian Federation who has caused, the kind of damage to Russia that Putin has. After all, this is still far from the end, and 1 million killers will return from the war. Everything is just beginning. Unfortunately, because of this bunker-dwelling scumbag, innocent people are dying every day. A tragedy in Kryvyi Rih. Let me remind you, the Russians struck a shopping and entertainment center, the largest in Kryvyi Rih, Solnechnaya Galeria. It is already known that 16 people have died and 130 have been wounded, including 23 children. My condolences to the families and loved ones of those who lost their dear ones, and a speedy recovery to those who were wounded. And you know what? The way this strike was carried out is just terrifying. I mean, even the term terrorism doesn't quite fit here. It was a double strike. At 4:30 p.m., in broad daylight, a Russian strike drone hit a shopping mall, a shopping and entertainment center, where many visitors were present at that moment. And then, when people began to be rescued, a second strike followed right at the same spot. The follow-up strike was carried out by a jet-powered Shahed, which came in at an ultra-low altitude 26 minutes later. That is, when the rescuers arrived, when they started pulling people out, pulling them from under the rubble with glass cuts, that was when the second jet-powered Shahed struck, naturally, intentionally, of course. And these images, the whole world is seeing them, and this underground scum is furious from shame and from the inability to capture the Donbass. That is, he is now openly saying, "I will kill more civilians if you do not give up the Donbass." He is showing this to the whole world. And once again, I remind our partners that everything that Ukraine does not destroy now, from the Russian military-industrial complex, will be used against you. That is, you have a unique chance to destroy the Russian missile program, to destroy the drone production factories by the hands of Ukrainians. We have already read dozens of reports, including, by the way, from representatives of the North Atlantic Alliance, that Russia is planning to attack one of the NATO countries. Well, many are already talking about this. They just disagree on the dates when this might happen. You can very well ensure that by the time that bald piece of trash, or perhaps his little offspring who will grow up, by that time they simply have nothing to attack with. Everything is in your hands. There is a unique opportunity. You shouldn't miss it. Well, and you friends, take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and let's help our soldiers from the 26th Artillery Brigade. These are the kind of guys in this brigade. Silent, but they know their job. Have a peaceful day, everyone, and glory to Ukraine.